Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. My name is Reverend Connie Simon, and we are glad you're here with us. Whether you're joining us in person in the sanctuary, virtually, online, on YouTube, or watching us at some other time that's more convenient for you, welcome. We're glad you're here. Our urban community works for justice, equity, and inclusion. And to that end, we say, whoever you are, however you came here, whoever you love, whatever you do, whatever you have, whatever you don't have, whether you walked in, rolled in, or strolled in, you are welcome here. If you'd like more information about our community, about First Unitarian Church, or any of the work that we do, please send an email to member-care@firstuu.com or ask any one of us after the service. We'll be glad to connect you. You'll also notice at the end of the service there will be some announcements of things that are happening in the community that may be of interest to you. So keep an eye out for that. But first, we'll begin as we do every Sunday by lighting our chalice, the chosen symbol of our faith. And we do so with Creating Fire by Reverend Stephen Schick. Is the fire going out? Not in your belly, for you are still alive, but in your soul, that place where dreams fuel commitment, where longings shape action, where meaning flames purpose, where passion ignites and rekindles your life fire. If your soul smolders, dream on till you flame like a chalice of hope. Please join now in singing our vision song. The words will appear on the screen. You are welcome to sing out here in the sanctuary.
About 2 Thursdays ago, I went to my local board of elections to cast my ballot early. And while I was there, a family came in. And the youngest person in that family, I couldn't help but overhear, had just turned 18, which means they were voting for the very first time. And on an off year for that. And I wanted to jump up and down, and I wanted to congratulate the parents and tell them how amazing it was that they were there. But I didn't, because that's just not something you do. But it reinforced in me just how strong the Unitarian Universalist 7 principles are in my identity as a UU. Now, if right now you're wondering or thinking, wait a minute, what are those 7 principles again? Let me help you out here. Number 5 says we affirm and promote the use of conscience and the democratic process in our congregations and the wider society. Or to put it simpler, we believe everyone has a voice and everyone has the right to use that voice. I wonder, though, what do you do when it's hard to use your voice? When it's scary? Who do you turn to? Our story today is about that. It begins one morning with Sister Geese and her family. They come across a field full of sweet berries and soft grass, and they eat and eat and eat until their bellies fall to the floor and they can hardly move. Unfortunately, that's when Brother Fox sees them through the trees in the woods. He doesn't want to give them the opportunity to get away, so he skulks through the grass on the edge of the field. Unfortunately, some geese spot him. His terrible teeth and strong claws. And quickly word spread throughout the geese that Fox was in the bushes. And some geese began to tremble, and some geese began to cry, and some geese hid their heads in their wings, because if they couldn't see Brother Fox, maybe he wasn't really there. Sister Geese was just as scared as the rest of them, but she knew she had to do something. So she steeled herself and she spoke. "Brother Fox," she says, "I know you're out there and I know you want to eat us, but if you could, please allow us to pray first." Well, Brother Fox thought, of course, his meal would taste so much better with a little spiritual sustenance. So he allowed it. And the geese gathered round, and they started to pray. Gaggle, gaggle, gaggle. Gaggle, gaggle, gaggle. Join me. Gaggle, gaggle, gaggle. Gaggle, gaggle, gaggle. And it was so rhythmic. Keep going. Gaggle, gaggle, gaggle. It was so rhythmic and so harmonious that they began to dance. Gaggle, gaggle, gaggle. Gaggle, gaggle, gaggle. Gaggle, gaggle, gaggle. And slowly, Mr. Fox fell asleep. And by that time, the geese had digested their lunch, and they were able to easily sneak by Mr. Fox. And they noticed, as he slept, that his teeth didn't look so sharp, and his claws were not so menacing after all. And again, I wonder, who supports you when you need to raise your voice?
This is the time in our service when we honor the joys and the sorrows that have touched our lives and our community since last we were together. And we do this with stones and water, with the stones representing those joys and those sorrows that we felt, the hurts, the things that made us angry, the things that challenged us, the things that just we don't have any words for, that just tired us out, those nagging doubts, and for those little joys, the beautiful leaves that we saw, getting past the fox. So what we do is drop these stones into this water. This water represents the healing nature and power of love. And it comes from, part of it comes from, water that members of this community have brought to this church. On the first Sunday of the new church year, everyone adds a drop of water and they tell what they're bringing to community with that water. We keep it, we boil it, we use it for special events. So there's a little bit of that water in here now. Not all of it, but a little bit. So, right now, what I want to do is ask you to call to mind the sorrows that are on your hearts. Maybe it's a sorrow of your own. Maybe there is someone that you are feeling sorrow for right now. You can call out that name right now as I drop this stone in water so that it may soothe the pain and offer some healing. And then we have joys. For me, the biggest one right now is that we are all together in this space. Not the entire community, but a growing number of us. And for that, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the weather. I'm grateful for so many things. Think of something in your heart that you are grateful for right now. As we drop this stone in the water to amplify our joys. And then there are all of those things that we just don't know. People are happy and sad and suffering, and we don't even know it. We're pretty sure that right now there's a baby being born. Pretty sure that right now someone is dying. So we have to find a way to remember those too. And I have a tangible example of that this morning. I came in and found a box behind the pulpit with my name on it. And it said, my mother recently passed away, and her name was Connie. So I wanted to give you some of these things. And I racked my brain trying to think of who it could be from. And I think I know now. And if they're watching, thank you. I am grateful. So I'll use this as an occasion to drop several stones for all those joys and sorrows and things that are carefully hidden in our hearts that are unknown to us. And now I invite you to join me in a moment of silent meditation, reflection, and prayer that will launch with these words. I pray this day for the courage to be humble in the face of inequity and pain, to know that the power has been given me to make a difference, although not to end all suffering or to save all the whales that populate our days. I pray for the courage of endurance to keep acting in the midst of despair, to keep trying in the aftermath of failure, to keep hoping in the emptiness that follows loss or change. May courage give me patience, and may I ever know love's healing presence at the heart and center of my days. Maureen Killoran. Let's enjoy the silence.
Good morning. You can see from the announcements today that there's lots going on here at First Church, and we're adding another activity. Today is the kickoff for Guest at Your Table 2021. It's a tradition here at First Church and is sponsored by the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC. The objective is to raise money to fund the projects that are held and conducted by UUSC throughout the world and also in the United States to help people who are fighting oppression, injustices, and poverty. The way it works for this Guest at Your Table is that you can figuratively have a guest at your table on mealtime during the month of November, and these are people whom we call partners. They have been helped and benefited from the programs of the UUSC. And you'll receive a booklet with their personalized stories and what they and their families are dealing with related to environmental injustices, like I said, poverty, and also oppression related to race, ethnicity, and other factors. The guest at your table in your home can be intergenerational. You can include people of all ages, family and friends. And as you read these stories and make them a part of your mealtime, it's educational and interesting and inspiring. You'll receive a money collection box like this. It's colorful and you can keep it on your dining room table or somewhere else in the house. And throughout the month of November, people can just drop money in there or checks as they are so inspired. It's also possible for you to donate money to the UUSC Guest at Your Table through the Breeze system at our church, or simply send a check to First Church, and please be sure to write Guest at Your Table in the memo line. We will be asking for the money collection boxes and donations during December and early January. Guest at Your Table will be the topic of our entire worship service on Sunday, November 28th, so you'll get lots more information then. But for now, please check out the November newsletter that was sent today by email to First Church members and friends. It has lots of details about getting started and how you can get the money collection box and all the educational materials. I'm happy to bring them to your home or mail them, or it's pretty easy to just go online and download the items. I'm Martha Walker. Let me know if you have any questions. And I do hope that everyone will enjoy participating in Guest at Your Table for 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. And for those of you who haven't noticed, Martha is sitting here in the sanctuary this morning and has some boxes with her. So if you, just to go over those ways you can give, you can text the word give to 513-717-7373. If you have access to our Breeze member system, you can click Give Now. You can give online at firstuu.com, or you can mail a check payable to First Unitarian Church with UUSC or guest at your table in the memo line and send it to 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio. If you are giving electronically, you can specify where your gift goes. So if there's something, if you really want to make sure it goes to UUSC, make sure that you're picking guest at your table in that drop-down box. If this is your first time visiting us, we are grateful for your presence alone. That is enough of a gift for us, and we ask you, or we invite you to let the virtual plate pass you by. Our offering will now be received. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says that scientific evidence for warming of the climate system is unequivocal. We've known this for decades. Building on the 19th century works of Joseph Fourier, Eunice Foote, and others, Guy Callender made the connection between the increase of CO2 in the Earth's atmosphere and global warming in 1938. The facts are just indisputable. We see the effects in shrinking ice sheets and glaciers, temperature fluctuations, disturbances in weather patterns, and in the effect upon the animal and plant species with whom we share this planet. Despite all that evidence, all the efforts of activists around the globe, there are still those who say it's fake. It's not that bad. It's a conspiracy. It's a hoax. And then there's this. 250 million people worldwide have been infected with the coronavirus. More than 5 million of them have died. And still, there are those who say it's no worse than a cold, and that the reported deaths weren't real, or even that the data was manipulated. Now, here in this church family, we're still grieving the loss of our beloved Dick Bozian, who died of COVID-19. Many of us have lost someone we loved or know someone whose life has been affected by COVID. We ask others to wear a mask, to keep their distance, to get vaccinated for the benefit of the larger community. In gyms and stores and restaurants and school board meetings and even on airplanes, many of those people respond with anger, violence, and rage. It's a lot. And those are just two examples. We could talk about gun control, racial justice, politics, or even relationships with our own family and friends. Look around here, right in our own house. We're together, but not really together as COVID continues to affect us. We've done some good work together as a congregation this year. We've learned new technologies and created innovative ways to maintain connection as best we can. You enacted new bylaws that reflect who you say you want to be and how you want to be in the future. We've continued to do the work of justice, devoting hundreds of hours and contributing thousands of dollars to causes great and small in the hope of promoting justice, equity, and inclusion in our community and our society. For some, the pace of change is too fast. For others, it's too slow. Some say we're doing too much. Others say we're not doing enough. When I look around, I see fiercely committed and dedicated folks. I see youth like Greta Thunberg and Callan Benson of Fridays for Future. I see doctors and nurses, flight attendants and servers, store clerks and service workers who keep showing up, keep trying to do their work, even in the face of abuse and bad behavior. I see lay leaders and members of a congregation who volunteer their time and their energy to serve this church and its mission, both inside and outside the walls of this building, even when that feels really, really hard. I see folks who keep showing up at rallies, who keep writing letters to the editor, even when they don't know if they're making a difference at all. So to all the folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, thank you. To everyone out there just trying to be a better person today than you were yesterday, thank you. To those trying to make the world a little bit better, just a little tiny bit better, thank you. To those of you who are doing the work, to those of you who continue to do the work, we know it's hard, and we know you're tired. We know that some days you just aren't sure you have the energy to keep fighting the good fight. And when those who challenge you just keep coming at you again and again and again, we know it's tiring. We know it. Some days you just want to throw your hands up. I get it. I totally get it. Some days I'm tired too. Some days I wonder, am I even making a difference? I wonder why I keep putting myself out there to face all the things that come at me. Some days we just get tired. And I'm not talking about tired as in sleepy or sore. I'm talking about tired at heart. Tired of the struggle. Tired of feeling that we're always on an uphill climb. Author Jillian Kramer says, when you work for a cause that you believe in passionately and urgently, the work can be energizing and affirming, but it can also be exhausting and may lead to burnout if you're not careful. How do you keep going? How do you keep doing the work in these times of division and fatigue? Well, I'm going to give you the easy answer. We just do. We just do because we know in our soul it's the right thing to do. It's the work we are called to do, and it's who we are. And still, it's not that simple, is it? An easy platitude of just do it doesn't always work. How do you do it? How do you, as Kramer says, stay invigorated and engaged when all you want to do is give up? I don't have an easy answer, but I have some thoughts. I have some thoughts that are based on the wisdom of the ages, wisdom of my mom, wisdom of folks that are way smarter than I. And the first piece of wisdom is you can't serve from an empty vessel. Now, I don't know where that came from originally, but my mom used to say it all the time, and I've heard other people say it. You can't serve from an empty vessel. No one can work all the time. It's not physiologically possible. Our bodies need food and water and rest just to keep going. Otherwise, they don't function, and we're not here. So members of the staff here at the church hear me say that all the time when they say I'm tired, and I say, take a day off. You can't serve from an empty vessel. You're not doing yourself or us any good if you're exhausted, if you're sick, because you may hurt yourself or hurt someone else, and then we don't have you for a much longer time. So, within that, you can't serve from an empty vessel. Take care of your own physical needs. Get rest. Get sleep. Make sure you're eating properly. Along with that, you have to tend to your passions. You have to nurture your spirit. Whatever that is. You can keep the machine going, but what about your heart and your soul? What does it take to re-energize your heart and soul? For me, it's being outside on a crisp autumn day. It's hugging my dog. It's watching a tennis match. For others, it might be journaling or gardening or playing with their grandchildren. Whatever that thing is, it might be singing. You have to take the time to tend your passions, to tend your spirit. That may mean coming together with others, because it's possible that someday I'm feeling a little bit low, but Mary walks in and she's got more than enough to share. She may build me up and fill my spirit. So make sure that you're doing what you need. The third way that another way we talk about you can't serve from an empty vessel is you have to keep up with your knowledge. If I wanted to be an activist for, I don't know, for gun control, it wouldn't do me any good to be out talking about muskets. You have to stay educated. Stay up with the times. Learn the technology, learn the terms, learn what's going on. Keep yourself energized. Then you won't feel like you're beating your head on the wall, because maybe what you're doing is a little out of date. Maybe you'd have more success if you were more up on AK-47s than muskets. So that's the first thing. You can't serve from an empty vessel. The second piece of wisdom comes from my friend and colleague, Reverend Dr. Carol Thomas Sissel. She came here to Cincinnati in 2018, to this sanctuary, to participate in my installation as your minister. She welcomed me to the ranks of the handful of women of color who lead UU churches. And she gave me a piece of advice: serve from your overflow. I believe this concept comes from the writings of Eleanor Brown, who is also aware that you can't serve from an empty vessel. And she says, when you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow. In other words, if you give all you have, then there's nothing left. There's nothing left for you. And how much are you helping then if we don't have you? If you drain the lake, there's no more water. I think about an example from Dr. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he talks about the goose and the golden eggs. And he talks about how you have to tend to the goose. Because if you just use up all the eggs and don't take care of the goose, you're not going to get any more golden eggs. So in this case, you serve from your overflow, from the eggs that are left, not attacking the principle. Spend your interest, not your principle. And finally, this piece of wisdom is, remember that you aren't alone. You don't have to be the sole warrior. You don't have to be the only warrior all the time. Meredith talked about geese in our story. I want to give you another image of those geese. When geese fly in formation, they fly in a V. One leads, creates uplift for the others. When that one gets tired, another one takes the lead. When one gets sick and falls out, others go with it and stay with it until it dies or is able to fly again. And then they get up and find another group that they can be part of. None of us is alone in the things that we're trying to do. It may feel that way a lot. But I have to believe, I choose to believe, I know in my heart that there are people out there who are working for the good of our society. Even when all I see is another person saying masks are ridiculous, vaccines are a conspiracy, I know in my heart that there are those like you all who are doing the right things, who are doing what you can to make this a reality, to make things better. You don't have to do it all on your own. Sometimes that's just not possible. Sometimes the problem is too big or too complex. Sometimes, in the case of something like culture change, it's going to take years for change to come. And still, we keep going. Do you remember Martin Luther King's speech, "I've been to the mountaintop"? Do you know the circumstances of that speech? He was coming to Memphis to speak out in support of striking sanitation workers on April 3rd, 1968. As he boarded the plane in Atlanta to travel to Memphis, there had been threats made on his life. There were only 6 people on the plane. And the pilot apologized and said, "I'm sorry that we're going to be delayed, but we have Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on the plane with us, so we want to do a little extra screening. We want to make sure that everything's okay and everything is safe." And they did, they left. He came to came to Memphis, and he gave that speech. And there were threats in Memphis. People said, "We're going to kill you. If you don't stop, we're going to kill you." And he said, "And then I got into Memphis, and some began to say the threats, or talk about the threats that were out of what would happen to me from some of our sick white brothers. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop, and I don't mind. Like anybody, I'd like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will, and He's allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land." In less than 24 hours, he was dead, shot by an assassin's bullet. So, how do we keep going? How do we stay engaged in these times of division and change? We remember to fill our cup. We remember to serve from the overflow. And we remember that we're not in this alone. And it seems only fitting that I share with you another piece by Stephen Schick. This book is called Be the Change. This book has gotten me through many a hard day. It's poems, prayers, and meditations for peacemakers and justice seekers. And there's a piece in here entitled, "Do Nothing." Practice doing nothing each day. Not the whole day, but that part of it when your soul feels pinched and shoved and crammed into the end of your pen, pressed against a deadline or the cushion of your computer chair, or hanging on the request from someone who wants one more thing from you and you can't say no. Practice doing nothing each day. Make it a religious thing that binds you to a truth that can only be experienced, like when you breathe out and it empties you of all that presses against your chest from the inside until it spills out of you in angry words or impatient deeds. Practice doing nothing each day. Fill your day with moments of nothingness. Little ones at first, then stretch them, pull them until the muscles of all your undoing ache, like that time you felt them collapse after a long run, or a hard swim, or a heavy lift, as you heaved the last time before you said, enough. Practice doing nothing each day until all your doings yield to a new habit that demands you do nothing and do it consciously, with your eyes wide open, mindfully, without attachment, skillfully, with balanced acts of waiting, before you return to the world and all you're doing. May you each be inspired and motivated and held in love and commitment and in the practice of making justice.
Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the hope within. Sing to the power of the hope within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the hope within. Sing to the power of the love within. Sing to the power of the love within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the love within. Sing to the power of the joy within. Sing to the power of the joy within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the joy within.
We end our service by extinguishing our chalice by reciting together the words that appear on the screen. Today we say, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the power of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. As we return to our world of service, I'd like to share with you some announcements. We have a reopening survey that was issued this morning. It's in the newsletter and it was sent out by email. This survey asks your thoughts about coming together at Christmas, among other things, and reopening the sanctuary in full. So we really want to get your feedback. Please take a few minutes to complete that as soon as you can, because we need time to plan. Also, today at 11:15 on Zoom, we'll have our Getting to Know UU session for those who are interested in Unitarian Universalism. Our path to membership here at First Church has 3 parts. One is where we get to know you. The second is where you get to know Unitarian Universalism. And the third is where we focus specifically on First Unitarian Church. So we will be having Getting to Know UU today on Zoom. If you're watching this and you're interested in participating, send an email real quick to member-care@firstuu.com and we'll send you the Zoom link. We're starting a new feature here at First Church called Help Wanted, to list all the volunteer opportunities that are available. A page in our newsletter will be devoted to classified ads. So this is a listing of some of the opportunities that are out there for social justice work, IHN, working with the food pantry, helping out with worship by lighting the chalice, or perhaps doing a reading, working with adult faith development with our youth groups in our anti-racism work, or helping us out with our accessibility and inclusion work. If you're interested in any of those, see the newsletter. There's even a little application form that you can do on Breeze, and it'll send it right to the person it needs to go to.